Living podcast with myself, Melanie Dean. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to anyone who's new to this podcast, and welcome back if you've been here before already. We've all been here before, haven't we? Let's face it. But anyway, let's continue. So, Radiant Living podcast. I love our title, the Radiant Living, because it can mean so many different things, but ultimately I always think of it as meaning that magnetism, that radiance, that living in the truth of who you are on that high frequency, that high destiny, that path of that incarnation, why you're here, doing what you should be doing to really live like the life that you're here to live, not someone else is here to live, or not that we think we maybe should live because someone told us once, or we saw an advert, or we saw a commercial that made us think that we want something else that we don't actually really want, but really that true power that comes from within that then gets reflected on the outside world. So one thing that I've sort of heard a lot about recently, and it's sort of been in my realm recently, and I always like to speak about things that seem to come to me, and I've had downloads on this too, and that's the difference or the observation, let's say, of that feminine energy versus the masculine energy. And also, let's maybe even just take that versus out, but the polarity. And if you listen to previous podcasts, you'll hear me speak about polarity, and that, you know, we do live on this polarized planet where there's north, south, east, west, good, bad, black, white, masculine, feminine, and ultimately what's really, really important is not to distinguish one as being good and the other as bad, but actually we need the two, and we can't not have the two because of the geometrics, the structure of planet Earth, and the rules and the laws of the planet that we chose to reincarnate in. So I think there's so many people that listen to this podcast, and so many of us anyway in life now, who are really looking to create businesses or side businesses alongside other things that we're doing. But there's still for a lot of businesses and a lot of role models out there, there's still a heavy accent on that masculine energy. And it's really what I've found is that it's really a trust to elevate out of what other people's perceptions are, what other people's paradigms are, what other people's belief systems are on how to create a thriving business in 2021. So I really wanted to look at this. For me personally, I've been getting really strong downloads about, for me, embracing my feminine energy. And I had the privilege of spending a weekend with some beautiful, powerful female feminine energy, and it was just this wonderful reminder that came to me, reflecting on the outside world as well as what I was feeling on the inside world. So just a little bit of back history of how I've seen things over the years that I've certainly experienced in my life, and probably just as far as back as my parents' life. When I look at before I was an adult, it was definitely, of course, the men and that masculine energy. Men was the masculine and female was the feminine. As a general rule, that's kind of back in the sort of 70s, that's really what was mostly the predominant. Obviously very different now. But back then it was, that men had the opportunities. The masculine energy was what was the driver, the force, the power. And it was, the men that had the opportunities to do things and to thrive. And, the women's roles were very, very, very different. So then obviously as we went through time, and I noticed for me as I was growing as an elderly teenager and coming through sort of college, university, and then into work life, that definitely shifted. But it was still what I felt growing up in that time was that you can be as good as the man, but to be as good as the man, to be as good as the masculine, you have to be like the men. So I grew up in very much that ladette culture. The Spice Girls were giving it the girl power, which, it was girl power as it could be in that time, but it was women or feminine energy projected out as masculine energy. It was, it was really like down and dirty. Not that masculine energy is down and dirty, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So it was very much, you can be as good as a man, but you have to act like the man to be as good as the man. That was definitely that energy that I certainly experienced. This is my projection, of course, and you might resonate with this or you might not. And it obviously depends the stages of your life as you're listening to this as well. And then, of course, things did start to shift. We had the shift from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, which I know more people are speaking about that now, and it is considered that it's really now that we've really entered into that, but actually it was sort of 2011, 2012 where we really started entering into that. So what really was apparent in that shift was that we stopped looking outside of us for power. We stopped looking outside of us for validation. Instead of considering, oh, I've got this car, then I'll be happy. Or when I get that big house, then I'll be happy. When I achieve this title, then I'll be happy. Instead of that kind of outside energy, we started to get connected and started to realize that actually the power is within us. And the power from within as so without. So it became apparent, and obviously we're still working with this, but it really started to become apparent that when we connect to source energy or our intuition or the truth of who we are, then we can start seeing that reflected in our outside world. So when we align with why we want the car, why we desire the car, then we can create it from the inside out, or the house or the money. So it's not saying that it's bad to have those things, but it's aligning with why we want those things that then can create those things from the inside out. And the way I really do see that is that when you build something on a really strong, foundation. When you build something on that strong foundation, you really build something that lasts. So we can create from outside of us. We can create from fear because we're powerful. We can create all these things, but it might be on a bit of it might be more of a wobbly structure. And when something's a bit wobbly, it can collapse, it can fall, it can be rebuilt, obviously, but when we rebuild or we build on that strong foundation, we really build something with strength, with power, and that beautiful longevity as well. So what happened then with this awakening was that we realized, because the power is within, then actually we're all created equal. So we all have that power within us. It's not just the man that has the power, it's all of us that have the power. So for me, what I started to recognize was this almost like fight for this feminine, the feminist, the feminine power. And like anything, we do have to sometimes have that contrast. We do have to swing the pendulum one way to then let it go as far as we can go one way to then it can swing back, so then it can come back to a place of neutrality that is serving to everyone. So we've definitely had this swing and to really far one way and far the other way, although it didn't really go as far to the feminine as maybe it could have done, but perhaps that is part of that feminine energy anyway. So really now, what does that look like now? What does that look like today to those of us who, regardless of whether you're male or female, you actually want to tap into the divine masculine and that divine feminine? Well, it really does start with clearing anything that we feel has been put on us, what men should look like, what women should look like, what masculine should look like, what feminine should look like, and really, start connecting inwards, outwards. So as I've spoken about, the power of meditation, breathing, connecting to source, connecting to that self, that higher intuition, that higher being. So when we feel connected, we can really then act from what feels good for us, whether it is that divine masculine or that divine feminine. And actually when we start acting from us, it kind of is irrelevant whether we're in feminine energy or masculine energy, and we can sort of move between. What is sometimes worth being mindful of is that if you are in a business and you are in that masculine energy, that masculine vibration, that when you come into the household, especially for some of us right now, we're working from home and maybe we're in our office and we're giving it the masculine vibes, and then maybe we then connect with the family in the family home and we're still giving the masculine vibes. And actually, you maybe want to build on a relationship that's based on maybe you being in your feminine vibe. So it is being mindful of that for sure. And the way we can really connect with our feminine energy is doing things that feel feminine, whether it's dancing around our room, lighting a candle, taking a long bath, listening to beautiful music, being part of sister circles, things that really embrace the feminine energy and the power of that. So how can we bring feminine energy into our business that then works for us? Well, again, it is being connected. So you're working on what feels right for you, what feels true for you. So what is feminine power? So what is that divine feminine? Well, divine feminine is creativity. It's the power of the intuition. It's the power of knowing and working with the essence and truth of who you are, so then create your outside world. It's connection. It's connecting to self, which then enables us to connect to others, because we're connecting again as who we are and not a projection or a masked version of who we think we should be. Divine feminine energy is considered. It's conscious. It's an awakened connection. It's beautiful, but it's also incredibly powerful. It's a magnetism. It's not a push. It's not a force. It's a pull. It's a power. It's an attraction. It's radiance. It is beautiful radiance. And it is the creator. It is creative. When you think of a mother in her absolute divine feminine energy is when she's giving birth. And that is creating life. That's the most beautiful and the least passive thing you could probably ever do. I think there's sometimes these conceptions that feminine energy could be things like passive, or it could be weak or without boundaries, but actually true divine feminine powerful energy is activating. It is delivering. It is creative, and it is with boundaries. It is with boundaries because it's honoring its queendom, its goddess, its vibrant. It's all of these beautiful things that are just ultimately, to me, they really symbolize a power, like a yoni, vibrant, powerful energy of force. And really, that's my one goal with this podcast. I think it might be just a short one, but to really embrace that feminine energy, not as weak, lacking, missing, but as power, as consciousness, as connected, so that when you make decisions in your business, it is connected, it is creative, it is a power, it is a magnetism. And really, spend time finding that feminine divine within you, if you so feel called to. Because ultimately, we are going, if not already, we're going from that 3D to 5D. And yes, we'll still have to hang out in the 3D sometimes to pay bills and things like that until the planet really, really moves to that 5D energy. But we're spending a lot more time in that fifth dimension energy. And if you want your business to be in that fifth dimension, then that is consciousness, that is thoughtful, that is creative, that is connected, that is truth, that is power, that is magnetism, that is radiance. So bring your business into that energy, into that realm, and it will flourish. It will flourish how it needs to for you on this path that you chose in this lifetime. So that is really, I guess, really the power and the points I wanted to really get across. like I said, we always need that polarity, and we've got this beautiful masculine divine energy that's really now coming more and more around us, and it's so precious and it's so valid and valuable in our times right now. And you might want to think of it as the yin to the yang, or the moon energy to the sun energy, and also it's the left side of the body to the right side of the body. So if you want to work out if you're in your masculine or feminine, you could actually block one of your nostrils and just feel which ones you're more predominant. If the left nostril feels really clear, then you're in your feminine energy, your moon energy. If your right nostril is more clear, you're in that masculine energy and you're in that yang energy. And again, you know, we can work with both. But I just really wanted to do this very quick podcast to just point out the beauty of actually holding the two and working with divine feminine and divine masculine energy to really create and to deliver and to really ascend your message to what it is that you want to put out there into this realm to live on your path and on your journey. So as always, if there's anything that really resonated with you and you'd love to share this with people around you, please feel free to do so. Oh, it would be amazing as well if you wanted to leave a review. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please feel free to leave a review. If you want to share on Instagram, you can tag me at Melanie J. Dean. I also will be adding a visual of this onto YouTube as well, so you can look for me on there. We do have a Radiant Living Facebook community, so feel free to join us on there. You just type in Radiant Living, and you can visit my website as well, which is really needs a bit of a refresh, but have a look anyway, and that's melaniejdean.com. So thank you so much for joining me, and I really hope you spend some beautiful time in that feminine energy over the next few days, few weeks, few years, few lifetimes to really explore your power and your absolute radiance. Thank you so much. Bye.